defiance to the traditional bureaucracy, going beyond status quo, the cry to dismantle kleptocracy, ease of doing business, civil service reforms, new public service, smarter cities, smarter government, smarter citizens, smarter economy, smarter mobility, smarter environment. These are just some of the topics in administrative reforms and innovations. To understand them better, it is essential to tackle the concepts of innovation and reform. Presenting to you the introduction to the course. Before diving deeper into administrative reforms and innovations, public administration students must first understand the two major concepts in the course. Let us first tackle innovation. There are so many definitions, and even its types vary from one citation of an expert to another. But let me share what the term means in two different contexts. First is the context of organizational innovation. In here, innovation can occur in the case of products, processes, or services. This can be incremental or radical. Incremental innovation, which is also identified as the dominant type of innovation, focuses on upgrading or enhancing existing systems and products to make them better, cheaper, or faster. A created product or output will not be retained as is, while maintaining quality, upgrading is important. Else, an organization will lose its competitive advantage. This is also true with systems, processes, and services. To achieve efficiency and effectiveness, an organization should not lose sight on improving them. That's innovation. Mobile phones, for instance, kept on evolving as companies upgrade their features. To achieve efficiency, an organization also upgrades equipment being used in production and in delivery of services. Next, radical innovation. It is also known as a disruptive innovation because the focus of this type of innovation is developing revolutionary new technologies or markets and even business models that change the world. That's why it's revolutionary, creating, of course, a huge impact to society. This would involve technological innovations. Common examples from various sources are personal computers and the internet. Personally, I appreciate the advancement of communication under this type. From the telegrams where you need to limit your words as the transaction is paid per word, and through phone where you hear the voice of someone, especially your loved ones working overseas, for instance, to what we have now, meeting and seeing each other online through wireless connection. For me, that is really revolutionary because it's really had huge impact in terms of connectivity. If you happen to be someone with a family member who is working overseas or in other regions and you were living in the 80s, you would really feel that change because that was also an experience which I could never forget. And it would be really a relief to have such technological advancement. And that is what innovation can do with our lives. Now, in the context of the public sector, innovation is defined as the intentional introduction and application within a role, group, or organization of ideas, processes, products, or procedures new to the relevant unit of adoption, designed significantly to benefit the individual, the group, organization, or wider society. Take note, it's made use of the word intentional. to intentional introduction of something, of an application within a role as emphasized in the definition. And even products, procedures, or system, it could also be a system. Innovation in the public sector can furthermore be categorized into evolutionary innovation, expansionary innovation, and total innovation. This typology is relatively abstract due to its general context. So here, let us check why. First, let's have evolutionary innovation. It is also known as developmental innovation. It denotes new skills or capacities that are used to address an existing need. Well, change is constant, and so there is a need to transform. Evolutionary innovation in the public sector means that the process of innovations in public administration keeps on evolving and is actually cumulative. For example, in the Philippine administrative system, having been capacitated to utilize technology, the citizens' cry for transparency led to the advancement of the systems of governance. This is also a means to prevent bribery, as there is now a less face-to-face contact. Online system is now becoming the trend. So basically, evolutionary innovation is the implementation of a new idea or modification of idea that has been used in another context to improve public service performance. Next is expansionary innovation. This describes new needs that are being addressed by existing policies, skills, or capacities. For example, a new need is the solution to pandemic. Currently, we have existing policies like respect for human dignity and human rights. And also, we have our right to health and right to privacy. These are provided in the 1987 Constitution. Hence, to protect its people, the Philippine government came up with measures to address this new need based on existing policies, like the enactment of Bayanihan Act 1 and Bayanihan Act 2. So that's an example of expansionary innovation. There is a new need that is being addressed by existing policies. Even on quarantines, the government needs to continue to fulfill its duty not just to protect, but also to serve the people. There was an immediate, some would say it's abrupt adoption of digitization, because there was a revolutionary digital transformation, not just in the private companies, but also in the government. The COVID-19 has been really a catalyst for innovation. So you see, it's also contingent to the situation. It's contingent to what is needed in the now. Certainly, the COVID-19, for example, accelerated digitization. An online digital platform has become the lifeblood of communication. Our government agencies and state-run companies embarked on remote contact for the work from home arrangement. Mass notification systems and hotlines to deliver accurate and credible information to the public were also utilized. The Commission on Higher Education and Department of Education mandated schools also to adopt a flexible learning mode and create learning continuity plans. The last type under this typology is total innovation. Here, a new need is being addressed by new skills or capacities. So this time, the new need is being addressed by new skills or capacities. I won't go beyond the pandemic scenario for my example. So let's say the new need is the prevention of the spread of pandemic. To address this, the government must develop new skills. A specific example of this is contact tracing. And in terms of capacity, the government worked also towards the achievement of an increased capability of our health system. So there were so many trainings in order to capacitate frontliners to be able to do contact tracing and a lot of efforts were made in order to increase the capability of our health systems. One thing is clear. There are different variations that explains the concept of innovation, particularly in the public sector. But there is that common denominator, the public. Because clearly, administrative innovations in the government aim to address societal problems. This is why the new concepts and paradigms evolved to help reframe the nature of specific problems as well as their possible solutions. From time to time, the types of innovation had been developed in many ways. This also brings us to the point that innovation is a dynamic process that changes the overall architecture of government, leading to the identification of issues and challenges that need to be addressed or resolved. Thus, in general, the features of innovation coincides largely with the reform process. So let us this time check the concept of reform. Dictionaries would define the term as to make changes so as to improve. Changes and improvements to a law, social system, or institution. That's how Collins defined the term. Amendment of what is defective, vicious, corrupt, or depraved. Removal or correction of errors or of an abuse or a wrong. That's from Merriam-Webster. And from Cambridge, it is an improvement or set of improvements made to a system, law, organization, etc., in order to make it more modern or effective. Reform obviously therefore indicates the existence of a defect or a flaw. Well, that's just one. This is why we have reformers. For example, Martin Luther saw racism as a defect in American society during his time. So he fought for equal rights. Jose Rizal, our national hero, together with the other reformists, Marcelo H. del Pilar and Graciano Lopez Haina. They also wanted to reform the Philippine society through assimilation in order for the Filipinos to gain equal rights. You see, reformers found the defect in the system of governance, and so they attack and remedy the defect. So to answer the question, why reform? Well, simply because there is a defect in the system, in the processes. We also reform because what we practiced before is already obsolete and is no longer applicable at present. As the environment changes, it is necessary to effect reforms. Administrative processes must be continuously restructured, revamped, and realigned in order to ensure effectiveness of performance or specifically public service. Hence, there is also a need to motivate. This is why the integral element of administrative reform is innovation, which includes bringing new ideas and new systems, even people in the administrative process. So, hope you will enjoy your course on administrative reforms and innovations. See you in class, and thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe.